So this show is being recorded. It's the Marketing Blab with Deborah. My guest today is someone I admire and adore. His name is Stephen Memel. Stephen is a voice and a performance coach, and I've had the good fortune of seeing Stephen live and in action at several events. And he can quickly transform somebody on the stage from being actually good to being great, or being just okay to being fabulous. So Stephen, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your patience with technology. Welcome to the Blab. Stephen is calling us from California. My first question for you, Stephen, is for those people who don't know you, I know there's quite a few fans here on the Blab. Those who don't know you, why don't you tell them what you'd like them to know about who is Stephen Memel?
Who is Stephen Memel? Stephen Memel is a father and a husband. Yeah.
Well, and a good one at that.
What's that?
A good one at that.
But let me also say, Deborah, that you look marvelous. You really do. Absolutely stupendous. So if anybody agrees with that, props. But I know Deborah's looking really good today. So, in difference to my scruffiness here, but I took that beautiful son to school this morning. That Fridays are my day. What I'd like people to know is it's an interesting change in positioning for me, because moving into working more and more with entrepreneurs and businesses and executives and the teams, as well as building and expanding my career in the arts. What I realized is that if I positioned myself, and this is very interesting because it's about marketing and copywriting, if I positioned myself as a voice and performance coach, nobody could ever get beyond the voice, right? And it was always risky in a transitional time, or a little nerve-wracking in a transitional time, taking out the voice part, because that was the core business as I was building this other side. But it's really evolved right now to the point where what I consider myself is a performance coach above all. And performance is really in terms of how we perform in business, how we perform in life. I mean, gosh, stocks perform, businesses perform, teams perform, people perform. If they didn't, there wouldn't be performance reviews, but we make this separate thing, performance in the arts, and it's not. So it just so happens that having expertise, and a tremendous expertise at being a vocal coach, and having the vocal anatomy, the vocal technique, like I just cured one of my clients who's a $1 million earner in voiceover work, of hemorrhagic nodules without surgery.
Nice vocal cords.
Yeah. But the voice is just one element of performance. It needs to be in alignment, but so does the body. The body needs to move. And I have expertise as a dancer. And so does the way that we communicate. Yeah, I was a dancer. I was in tights, go figure. I was lifting those babes up.
You in tights? We need a picture of that.
It's a scary thought if you see me now, I know. But I definitely was in tights, and I have expertise in music and acting and directing and all these areas, and then now for years and years and years building a business and doing all the entrepreneurial things that we do to create our lives. So the principles are the same no matter what. If you want to be a top performer, a high performer in your business, in your life, that's what I work with people on.
Well, that was one of my questions for you. Is you've worked with people like Adam Levine and with Drew Barrymore and even Lauren Bacall, so people might say, oh, well, he worked with these actresses and these, singers and these people that do perform on a stage, but how's he going to help me perform? And I've seen you do it, so I know the impact that you can have on people. And so one of my questions was, what's the difference, for example, Or is there a difference?
There's not.
Between working with a musician, a vocalist, an actor, or working with someone like myself who speaks from the stage as a way of living, as a way of my career is speaking?
It's a very good question. And really, there's very little difference. I know you are familiar with my training system, the science of switching on, which I created and built in the arts. But I knew from before I ever named it even that it was something that covered everything that people did in life. We all play roles. We just may not realize it. We're different people in different circumstances. We just do it tacitly. We don't do it intentionally. We all have to communicate with our bodies, with our voice, and that has impact. We have to deliver a message. We have to connect with people. It's all the same things that actors and performers and dancers have to do. So there really is no difference. What I do is I target where are the elements of being out of alignment with your core. And when we see that piece that's out of alignment, no matter, it's the same like even in stereo speakers and sound waves. If they're out of phase, there's phase cancellation. The sound goes away.
Goes away.
But if those speakers are in alignment and the waveforms, it doesn't get normal. It doubles in volume. So that's what our energy is like. That's what our impact is like when we're in alignment with body, mind, energy, emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I call the quickening, which is that most important step, which is falling into the zone or dropping or releasing into the zone.
Well, talk to us more about that quickening, because I know we've talked about it in the past, and in your program you talk about it. And so is that really sort of the in the zone feeling where you just feel like all that is in alignment?
Absolutely.
Like, I nailed it, that kind of a feeling?
Absolutely. And, I'd like to ask the listeners, I just thought about this. Send props if any of you have ever felt at least once in your life that feeling of just hammering it, of just being unstoppable. Everybody's felt that. But I'd love to see what the response is from those listening.
Well, we got Robert doing that and Connie clicking there. You can type in the comment box if you want as well.
Yeah. We've all experienced it at some level. The issue is that most of us experience it accidentally, and I'm even talking about performers. And we don't know how to get there consistently, and that's why I call it the science of switching on, because there is a science to it. There's a way that every single person in the world, if they're willing to do the work, they can be literally in the zone anytime, unfailingly.
So what does it mean to do the work? It's not just, for example, like I'm speaking after we get done today, I'm going somewhere to speak and I practice, so I pull up my PowerPoints and I practice, but my gut says you're telling us it's more than just practice.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. So when we were talking about the differences, let's go back to that because that's a really good question. One of the stages in the science of switching on is the stage of body. Because for everything that every arena that people work in, every human endeavor has a physical element to it or a structural element to it. If you're an accountant, it's a spreadsheet. If you're a speaker in business, it's a PowerPoint. And that's the channel through which this greater or lesser expressed version of who you are, this more full version of who you are goes through. So you can be as free and as loose and as comfortable as you want, but if that channel's not clear, then it doesn't matter. It's not going to get out if you're not great at PowerPoint. That's where practicing comes in. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, you can have your PowerPoint practiced up the wazoo, and these other elements, your mindset, your emotional connection to it, your energy are not in alignment or not where they can be, and you don't know what you don't know, So therefore, you can't exceed a certain level because most people think it's about practice. And there's something that I call practicing along the fault line. And my desire, and I'll describe that in a second, my desire is to get everybody to a point where they're earthquake proof.
Earthquake proof?
Earthquake proof.
Okay.
So what happens is people practice by rote, which to me is along the fault line. It's like doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it. But mostly they do it in one single modality, one single way, repetition, repetition, repetition. Well, if you build a building on a fault line and the earth shifts, what happens to the building? It comes down, right?
Right.
So if you, let's say you work multiple different ways and you come at it from all these different angles, your mindset, what are you thinking? What's going on? What stories are you telling yourself? Your emotions. Why are you actually saying what you're saying? Why are you connected to it rather than reciting it? You know, where is that connection? Mm-hmm. How comfortable are you with an energy that feels uncomfortable to you, but looks exciting and interesting to other people, whereas what's comfortable to you looks maybe dull or not as bright? So those kinds of elements, right?
So are you saying, you know, I feel comfortable doing my presentation, but even though I might feel comfortable, that it still might come across not as powerful?
Most people haven't even begun to tap into what they're capable of.
Okay.
And
I've seen that. I've seen you do that with somebody, you know, someone that comes to mind that did a great presentation. And then we did one of your little advanced workshops at one of Ken's events. Hi, Ken, and you took them to another level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've seen that happen. And it is, as you said, it's really powerful. It has it shifts.
Well,
it's the science of switching on, I guess.
The science of switching on is what it is. And it's an enhancement of who they are. And I'm just I've done it for so many years for myself and then for other people that I look and I see the nascent things in them. And I see, oh my gosh, there's that hint of that. And that could be a movement, that could be a sound, that could be a thought. And when you turn up the juice on that, make it conscious and allow them to use that intentionally rather than accidentally, then they're amazing. What I do in workshops is my goal is to give people, facilitate them having, because I can't give it to them. They have to do it. I facilitate them having an experience of what it's like to be in that quickened state, right? But then once they know, oh, wow, there really is another place. There really is a target I can hit. Now we do the work that connects where they are now to that place they just experienced and what they need to have within them built as what I call an architecture of success to be able to get there each and every time.
Every time.
I mean, how would you feel if you knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that you would kill it every time?
Oh, that would be amazing.
You can imagine that, right?
Yeah.
You weren't wondering if you were going
to
be on.
Because I feel like when I do speak, I get positive feedback.
Right.
And people say it was great, but did I feel inside that I really nailed it?
Right.
I might feel, yeah, I did a good job, but did I nail it? That's a good way to think about it, and what would the impact be if you felt like you walked away going, I nailed it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an exciting feeling. I don't particularly, and I'll say this and then I'll have an off day, but I don't particularly get nervous anymore. To me, when I get up there, it's a playground. And there's very specific things I do to create that for myself. There's less I have to do now because it's integrated.
So what are some of those things that you do, or is that your secret sauce?
My secret sauce, but I'll give a few tips. I'll give a few really key tips. Here's the fastest way to get there. The fastest way to get there, or at least have an experience of it. Oh, maybe I shouldn't tell everybody, you know.
Oh, yeah. That's the way, is to tease them. Let's go.
So that's what I've learned in marketing now, right? Right? The open loop, right? No, I'll tell you.
Please.
Well, yes, absolutely. The fastest way is really adopting a role. We always play different roles, but we think just be yourself. I always freak out when somebody says that to me because I'm going, which self? You know, the one I am with Noah, the one I am when I meet with an executive of a company that brings in $5 million or $10 million or $100 million a year. The one who I meet with my pastor or my rabbi. No. So we're always playing roles. And we've just accepted them either tacitly, we haven't thought about them, or the world tells us and we've accepted it. So the biggest impediment is we won't be something else because we have this "that's not me" idea going on in our head. So if you give that up for a minute, and one way to leverage that is to pretend you're somebody else. So watch somebody on video who you think is extraordinary. It could be an actor. It could be a cartoon character. And do them doing your talk.
Interesting.
And what happens is, with universally, people do extraordinary things. And the funny thing is that this thing that they're doing in a spirit of playfulness, it's not the person they've watched. It's actually them.
Themselves.
It's them doing another role.
So, for example, a person who comes to mind for me who I think is extraordinary is Meryl Streep.
Great.
Now, I couldn't impersonate Meryl Streep, but you're saying think of Meryl Streep while I'm speaking?
Pretend you're Meryl Streep. Watch her.
In which role?
Pick it. Pick the role you like. Watch her on a talk show. Whatever you want. And then say, well, now I'm going to do Meryl Streep. You know, like I do terrible impressions, really. But if I was going to do the Donald, you know, I'd be doing like this. And then I can take away this big false voice and I can do like this and I can be very tough. And if somebody didn't know who I was, then they wouldn't know that this person that's talking right now is actually who I am. And you know what? I don't care what you think. And you can say anything to me you want to because I can take it and I stand by my guns.
Okay,
so I just embodied Trump.
Trump.
It's not even a reasonable impression, you know. But I didn't seem like I've seemed for the last few minutes, right? I took on a role.
A different, yeah.
I took on a different beingness. And so it caused me to behave differently, to have different energy, to have a different body movement, to have a different vocal energy. And we can then, after we experience that, we can choose and select the pieces of that we like. But we should have other people give feedback because it's going to feel unnatural to us because that's not me.
That's not us.
That's what we think.
I mean, you don't in a day-to-day situation, you don't go around talking like you're Trump.
That's just habit. That's just habit.
You know, but I like your idea. And actually, Connie here in the comment stream was saying she also likes your idea of, you know, thinking of it as a playground.
Absolutely.
You know, that's a great way because that brings out more joy, I think, and more fun and lightens it up a little bit for you if you just think you're playing.
Yes.
However, what I think about is if you're in the corporate world, let's say, and you're doing a presentation to your board of directors.
No.
Do you think about playing?
Yes,
you're
you do.
In your head.
You do. You play. Everybody wants to have a good time. People confuse, and this is a very important statement I'm going to make. People confuse professionalism with being serious.
Okay.
I cannot tell you how much you need to ponder that because I have done these corporate things. I have conducted seminars with groups of business people, and the person up there who I'm working with feels like I couldn't do that in front of other people. That's not whatever their version of it, what it's not is to them. But you know what? The reflection they get from all their colleagues is, oh my goodness, do that more.
They like it.
Do that when you go in.
Interesting. Well, it's kind of, I don't know, it sounds like stepping outside of yourself, maybe.
Right. Well, it's actually, it's stepping outside of your ego-formed idea of yourself.
Well, and stepping outside your comfort zone, maybe?
Yes.
You know.
Well, that's the thing about the quickening.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place where you're self-aware, but unself-conscious.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, it's interesting because I don't think I'm 100% there yet, and anybody who's listening can share as well. But I'm not always, for the most part, self-conscious anymore when I go speak. However, if I'm speaking and maybe I look out in the audience and I think someone looks bored, then I get self-conscious. It's like, oh, you know, I'm boring that person. And it might just be that they process differently. So they're looking away because they're processing. But then I start to get, you know, in the course of the presentation, self-conscious.
Well, one of my 10 key principles is you can't control the audience.
That's true.
So if you sit there and do a projection onto the audience of what you think they're thinking, and there isn't an audience, unless you were standing at the door with a clipboard asking every single person, you would not have the guy, like you said, maybe processing is looking like this.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who's sitting there like this, his wife or girlfriend may be sitting next to him. As soon as I get home, I'm throwing everything she has out the window onto the lawn. Because
okay, we don't want to get this X-rated.
No, but
right.
You understand what I'm saying?
His mind might be totally somewhere else, even though he looks like maybe he's engaged.
I have a $5 bill I won in a bet at a seminar from a woman who confided to me afterwards that she was humiliated by what she had revealed and that she can't believe. And she heard people, she had all sorts of evidence why the audience was thinking what she had created in her mind they were thinking.
But it was only in her mind. She didn't have any.
I asked her permission.
Uh-huh.
We were out afterwards, and I asked her permission that next time we're in front of the group to ask the group, because I would never do it without asking.
Without her permission.
And I did, and I won the $5 bet because I was so sure that she was wrong, because I've just been through this a million times.
Enough times. Well, you know, just for everyone that's listening, I want you to know two things. If you have a question, you can do a / and a Q, and then type your question in the comment box, and it will pop up as a question, so it's easier for me to see as I'm looking at the comment box. And I'm going to open up the seats shortly. I want to spend a little bit more time with Stephen, but then I'll open the seats if you actually want to get on camera and ask a question of Stephen face-to-face, so we'll do that. But my next question for you is, you know, and you've sort of covered this a little bit, but how do you deal with nerves or with fear? A little different than I think being self-conscious, you know.
Right.
I think it's natural for people, at least, okay, I'll speak about myself. Before I speak, I might have butterflies in my stomach and a dry mouth. And that I think is natural part of the process. Once I'm going, then it kind of goes away. But I'm sure you've run into people that, and actually somebody comes to mind where we were at an event and she was scared to death.
Yeah.
You know, so how do you deal with nerves and with fear? Or what do you recommend for that?
Well, that's a very, very good question, because most people are at some level concerned about that. And I mean, I think everybody who's listening probably can relate to that at some level. We've all had those moments, right? I've had people, there was one woman I had to pry her coat and glasses out of her hands. She wouldn't even let go.
Don't take it from me.
I have dealt
That was
with
her
abject,
safety net.
Mm-hmm. So there's abject terror, but there's many levels to it. But one of the main levels is that we all want to run away from our fear. We want our dry mouth to stop. We want our heart to stop pounding so hard. We get into what I call an energy lock, where we're in resistance to what is. And that bottles up our energy like this. And, the way I demonstrate it at seminars is I have two big guys on either side of a chair, right? And they're pushing in. That chair's not moving. Then I put them on the same side. I won't even let them try to push because they'll push it through the wall. They have so much energy when they're in alignment. So when we're saying there's something wrong with me because I'm nervous, my heart has to stop beating. We don't embrace it, accept it, and go, wow, gosh, this sucks. And I feel like doo-doo on toast, and first become aligned and honest with yourself. And something to really be key about, if you find yourself doing that and having a smile on your face while you're doing that, you're not doing it. You have to drop in.
So drop into that fear, drop into that nervousness.
Because then you take control back. I go through an exercise where I guide people through a script, essentially, where they realize they actually can walk out the door that moment and nobody will kill them. They may be really mad.
Right.
They can't put them in jail. They can't kill them. They may have to move to a different city.
They'll be blacklisted.
But only with a certain group. There's always somebody else. Look at the people in the news. Look at these heinous things these people do in the news, and then they have great careers. Right. Somebody else hires them. It's ludicrous. So when we realize that, and we really realize I could make the choice right now to walk out of this place and never return, then I can really come to terms with, am I going to do that? Probably not.
Right.
So what am I going to do?
What's the other side of that?
That's one element of it. Does that answer your question somewhat?
Yeah, but sometimes, for example, I think what you're talking about might take like some time before you step on the stage.
Right. So if you're on the stage, here's what you need to do on the stage. All right. I have a ritual before I go into any situation like that. Step one is I ask myself, what am I here to communicate? Mm-hmm. Because usually I'm showing up due to the fact that I have some very specific expertise that people want me to share with this group that really they don't have. I know they don't have, but at least they don't have at the level that I have. And so I realize I'm there to give them that. And I turn my passion to really making sure that they understand and that it gets across to them these important things that could make a massive difference in their life. Yeah. The minute I do that, I'm no longer looking at myself. I'm no longer being the one being judged. I'm the one doing the work, right? So what am I here to communicate? And then, so I can ascertain at the end, did I do my best job?
Did I do my job? Mm-hmm.
The second step is a commitment. And I do this religiously. The commitment is making the decision and the promise to myself that I am leaving this place, whatever the situation is, a one-on-one meeting, a speech, feeling good about myself, mm-hmm. regardless of what happens while I'm in there.
Okay.
No matter what happens.
So if you feel like when you were up there, something went wrong, you don't beat yourself up when you leave the stage? Is that what you're saying? Even
sooner than that. This is your answer to what do I do in the middle?
Right.
Okay? If I've made that commitment, I've taken my value, my self-worth off the plate, being connected with my performance. Right? So now that's given me a little mental space. And then if I find myself feeling like doo-doo or like I've gaffed, what I do is I take a second and I go, and I have a little mental smile about it going, well, this is really going south, because nobody can tell you're doing that. They think you're pondering something, and they make up a reason.
You do that right there. It's like
I do that right there, and I have a little smile inside and go, this is an interesting experience. Well, let's go do some more. So what I'm essentially doing is introducing a sense of humor, but it becomes okay, next, rather than continually trying to make what feels wrong right.
Right.
Death. I call that death by goodness.
Well, I love that. It's like you're only human, so just take a moment, breathe.
Yeah.
And go, smile.
Smile. Put your head down even. And you know what, Deborah, let me challenge you to risk that in this next presentation you're doing, right? To just take a second, stop, breathe, have a secret thought while they're watching you going,
I'm going to think about you.
Think about me. And then lift your head up and begin on the next piece. All right?
Well,
and then
go ahead.
There's a second step, and this is what's very important. I call it data gathering. Then I want you to ask a couple of people, when I did X, and it should be in a very specific place, what did you experience? Because usually we feel like time, like it's an hour and a half up there.
Right.
But what you'll get is, oh, you seemed very in command. Oh, you seemed like you really were contemplating that moment, what you wanted to say next. And instead of going, oh, no, take the data dispassionately and go, wow. Accept it and utilize it to counteract what you think people are feeling when you're in that situation again. Is that clear to everybody? Is this too much?
Well, there's a comment here from, I think it's from Sharon, who said, why not walk into the given situation with a clear decision that you're of service and that you're a vessel for the message and that it's not about you. So I really like that. And we've got our buddy, we've got Jill, or Gilly actually, who said, she said someone asked her why she was so happy. And she said it's because she chooses to be that way. So.
Well, that's it. It's all about those choices. And I'm glad people are putting that because, growing gold. I love that. Why not welcome?
Growing gold that's let's see, that's Sharon. Hi, Sharon.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And that's what it is. It's about a decision. Here's what we need, though. We need, our brain is so clever that once we make that decision, we're still vulnerable to it circling back around and finding another way to trip us up. And we'll get a tool for that. And then the brain will find a way around that tool. And then we'll get another tool and the brain will find a way around that tool. And what you've got to do is train yourself so many ways and have so many tools. I feel to me, it's that Bruce Lee effect. Bruce Lee is surrounded by 22 assailants, but he's not worried because he goes, and he's got them all. And that's where you have to get to, where you are earthquake proof.
Well, I'm going to open up the seats. If anybody wants to jump on board and have a question for Stephen or a comment for Stephen or has an experience they want to share, we've got Mr. Robert Merlin Davis jumping on board. Hopefully the technology will cooperate with us today so we can see him. Here he comes.
Hey guys.
Robert.
Hey, Deborah. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, how you doing, Robert?
I'm switched on. I'm doing great, man. Thank you. Hey, I just want to publicly thank you, Stephen, and let people know who haven't been able to work with you yet. There's someone wrote in the comments that Stephen changed their lives, and it sounds like an exaggeration, but it's true. there's an ability to not just switch on during a presentation or performance, but there's some deep shifts that go on when it's not just working, Stephen, with you. It's sometimes just having a conversation. Because, some people have that ability that when you look at them, you just got to be real. You just got to be yourself. They create that kind of sacred space where you can, just be totally where you are. And then they kind of look and shine a flashlight and help you make a little shift. And that's what Stephen does. And it's been, it has been performance enhancing and life changing.
Thank you for that, Robert. And that's really, I like to keep my energy up when I'm talking on these things and all that. But that's really where I like to live is in that place where people feel like I am present for what's going on with them, where I'm really, really paying attention and care. And not only to tell them what I know, but to let them know what I see that they know. Because nobody likes to be underestimated.
Well, you got to
underestimate me.
Don't underestimate this guy.
Except Joel Cobb.
You're going to sign out now.
Okay, Robert, thanks for joining us. Hey, Joel, thanks for jumping on board.
Yeah, well, hi, Robert. Good to see you.
Oh, and what about me? Am I tough liver?
Hello, Deborah. Hello, Stephen. I wanted to say hi to both of you, and I'm glad to see. I know, Deborah, you've been doing Blabs regularly, and you roped our friend in, so congratulations.
Well, he's kind of fun to rope in, and he's been doing an awesome job. We had some technical glitches, but we got past that. So,
yes.
But I'm no longer a virgin.
Well, not anymore.
No.
And Stephen, was today your first Blab?
Yes. What's that, Joel?
I've been in that studio.
That's right, you have. Dare I say what for?
No, I don't care.
Okay. Joel, I said I want to give you as a gift a session where we work on his singing voice, because I think Joel has a really good voice. And I know, but he hasn't had that concept yet. And I think you walked out with a little bit different concept.
You switched me on.
Yeah.
So
but he really
should we get a little song and dance here?
I'm telling you, I can't put my reputation on the line and say these things if they're not true. So
you're very kind. And I wish you were coming. You're not coming to Gorilla, are you?
No. I wish I was.
Neither of you are coming? Deborah,
no,
you're not
coming.
coming? Oh, you are? Great.
Yeah.
Well, we get half of you.
Late Sunday.
I wasn't invited.
Oh, you didn't have to be invited. Well, I wasn't invited.
You're invited. Come on down.
Yeah, no. But I think it's going to be an extraordinary event. And I'm very excited for all of you going down and speaking. And Ken is going down and speaking. Ken MacArthur, who's on with us. I'm excited about that. And Richard Weiler.
For those of you who are watching, we're talking about the Guerrilla Marketing Summit. If you happen to be in Orlando, Florida, or want to make it to Orlando, Florida, it's November 2nd to the 4th. So check that out. And Joe will be there. And Ken is here today. Brian
Yeah,
G.
this
Johnson.
is actually why I'm growing this out again, so I look more like a gorilla.
Oh, wow. I can see that. Yeah.
Well, then I better go get a gorilla suit.
Right.
Right.
Well, I'll let you guys continue on switching on people. So thanks for letting me pop in.
Thanks for stopping by, Joel. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a good one. See you soon. If anyone else wants to jump on board, we have a seat that's available. And I just wanted to share, hopefully, I think she'll be fine with this. Uta is on our show, and she's been saying that Stephen profoundly changed her life. And she's a wonderful woman. Uta, if you want to jump on and share your thoughts, that would be awesome. Let everybody know about your experience working with Stephen. That'd be fabulous. But no pressure here. We have some other people here that have joined us. Thank you, Paul, for jumping online. And Sharon. Oh, Ute says she doesn't have a mic on right now.
Paul Crick from England. Hey, Paul, how are you?
Hey, let's jump on board with Paul.
How are you, my friend? Haven't spoken in a while.
Let's see. Is he on your screen? Here he comes.
Hang on a minute. Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Steve. Hello, Deborah. How are you?
I'm good. It looks like you're all bundled up. Are you cold?
No, I'm sat in a Mexican restaurant waiting for my train home. It's the end of the day. Huh?
Margaritas?
No, a beer.
Right.
How are you doing?
Very well, thanks. Thanks for joining in. I appreciate it.
Oh, I saw this and I thought, I need to know what was... We did a podcast together, too many years ago now, where Stephen did share brilliantly his science of switching on. So it was great to do that. Very, very knowledgeable, very insightful, and it was good to be able to share that with the podcast audience that we were working with at the time. So I just thought I'd jump on and say hi. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for jumping on. Thanks for calling in from England. What time is it over there?
It is 6:27 in the evening.
Well, you know what?
What time is it where you are?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in Colorado where it's 12:30 and Steve's in California where it's 11:30.
No,
Okay.
I actually, Deborah, I have a question because I want to see if anybody in the audience has any views like to answer. And Paul, if there's anything that you feel that you talk about benefits, because I really want.
Getting a lot of background noise.
Oh,
Yeah, that's because I'm in the restaurant. Yeah. I can't mute it. I'm sorry. So I'm going to jump
Okay.
off. I just
Thanks,
wanted
Paul.
to say hi. Steve, let's catch up. Deborah, thank you for letting me hijack this.
Hey,
okay.
sorry about that. It was hard to hear what you were saying. So what was your question?
Well, anyway, I really just want to make sure that people here, I love it that people are saying nice things to me, and I've gotten my due. I really want to answer questions. If there are people still here that would like any insights for specifically what they're working with. It could be about what happens to them emotionally or doesn't, what physically is a problem. It could be about voice. It could be about their body. It could be about just their message, anything, really.
So if anyone has a question, don't hesitate, jump on board, and Stephen will be happy to answer it. That's why we're here, is for him to share his expertise as a performance coach. Here's a question, and let's see. Connie is saying, how about another tip?
Great. Okay, so another tip is that this is a very specific thing that for women especially, I would play with the deeper part of your voice. And if you need help with that, one of the things I just give as a tip is talk like a man. And you've probably seen me do that. And when that happens, usually there's a very powerful response from the listeners in the audience to this new sound that a woman will make that feels foreign and wrong. And the reason I got talk like a man is because when I would help a woman to find that lower, more resonant part of her voice, invariably, almost 100% of the time, the first comment would be, yeah, but I sound like a man. So I just shortcut things.
If I were to talk like a man, it doesn't feel comfortable, for one.
Right. But it sounds very good.
It does, even though it sounds like, I can't imagine going up now and speaking at a presentation. One, it slows me down.
It wouldn't need to ultimately, remember.
I don't know that that's a bad thing. I just noticed that it slows me down.
But for now, remember, you're just playing with it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way of doing it mechanically so it's easier. But I think if you get some feedback from the listeners, they will say, of course, understanding that she was messing around, was it or was it not a more strong, substantial sound?
Voice.
Yeah.
Well, Sharon is the one who's at Growing Gold. She's saying, I think what you mean is drop in deeper into yourself. And her question is yes, or is that different than what you're saying when you say talk like a man?
So Sharon, that's a very, very good question. And let me answer it like this. I'm a very spiritual person, and I'm a very emotionally based person. So take that into context with the next thing I'm going to say. You can work on your chakras all day long and align them as much as you want. If you have a vocal, an anatomical, mechanical miscoordination, the sound's not going to come out. Okay? So there's literally mechanical, physical things that will give the impression, that will make you feel like someone has dropped more into themselves. Now, it doesn't mean that by doing chakras, they're going to stumble upon that once in a while, but it will not be technique. It will not be repeatable under all circumstances. And that's why there's stage of body, stage of mind, stage of emotion, stage of energy, because the mechanics must be there, the structure must be there, as well as the heart. Both of those must exist.
Well, Geely is saying it's a sound. She's saying it's a sound of strength, and she says Hillary Clinton has done that. Do you agree?
Oh.
Totally?
Totally, absolutely. Hillary Clinton has done it. If you listen, I mean, I was struck by this very much. If you listened, I think it was the Republican debates, there's a blonde woman. It was a Republican. She and Donald Trump really got into it. But there was the blonde woman who was the newscaster. I cannot remember her name. She had a very deep, empowered voice. So if you want to go listen to someone who does that, and you're not even thinking about it because it's just so natural, it's just so much a part of them, then that's what you'll hear. You'll hear that.
I'll have to pay closer attention now. And now I'm thinking, should I try this today? Should I go up there and speak deeply?
Here's another tip, though. When we do that, you have to have more breath, because if not, you're going to try to push that to happen rather than allow it to happen. And Sharon, that's back again to what you're saying when you're talking about allowing it to go more deeply within yourself. But that happens because there's a combination of the mechanics of the breath right here, and that happens in there, and
and Sharon is also saying she says it's speaking from your chest, not your throat.
Sharon, those are, here's where I always get stuck, because Sharon, you are coming in with such goodness and such heart. And so I would want to just say yes, but the things you're saying are right at one level, but at another level, they're the very things that stop people from doing it. And that's why they walked out of my studio after the first session going, oh my God, because voice is made by air pressure hitting the closed vocal cords. Mm-hmm. And the only place that can happen, that air pressure can hit your vocal cords, is where they are. And the place that the vocal cords are is right there.
Yeah.
However, when you're not adding in extrinsic muscle tension and you let everything go, the experience of vibration is sensed more deeply in the chest. And therefore, the idea that it comes from the chest, but it actually doesn't. And it's one of the things that causes people to coordinate incorrectly increase tension because they're trying to make it come from a place that it can't, rather than
it's not natural.
it. Well, if you allow things and you align everything, the experience of depth will occur.
Interesting. Well, we have Chuck on board, and Chuck said he used to announce 30 shows a year, sometimes 10 to 13 hours long. So he said if he did not drop down, he would have dropped dead.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Sharon says, by the way, that's what she meant, what you just explained.
I totally get it. And that's why I say I struggle, because I know I could tell that you were doing that. And so sometimes when somebody says no, I feel like there's a cartoon show, Beavis and
Butthead?
Yeah, I feel like a butthead, but I've had so much experience of the light bulb going on when people actually understand real function, which I don't understand why other people don't really teach, because we're conceptual beings as well as spiritual beings, and we need both sides of the processing of the brain. I'm very big on neuroscience and how that works, and the brain processes in a linear fashion and in spontaneous fashion, and we need those both to integrate.
So we have a question, and I love this question because it comes from Connie, and she's like, Stephen, do you come to Denver?
Well, I find myself there once in a while. For anybody out there, I would really love to be doing some seminars and workshops around the country. Right now, that's a challenge for me to create happening if I don't know that there's some kind of audience, or at least a few people that would make time, and then I'll market and do the rest of the stuff. But I would find it very valuable to have somebody who really was interested, because I got to tell you, we're just this much scratching the surface. Very much interested in coming out to your area and doing a seminar, a workshop. And so please, if you have some interest in that, please contact me. You can contact me through my website, and I'd be happy to discuss it with you. No commitments if you just want to even chat about it.
Well, that brings us to, Stephen, how do people contact you? I'm putting your URL in there, which is stephenmemel.com, but how can people find you other than that, or can they? Yes,
they can. I have another website as well, which is scienceofswitchingon.com.
I'll type that in.
And the stephenmemel.com at this point is more geared toward my arts people, and Science of Switching On is more geared toward the business people. These are going to be uniting, so that's not going to be the case very soon. But right now, they can go to scienceofswitchingon.com. Mia, correct me if I'm wrong, / wait. She's saying there's an ebook you can download, masterperformerebook.com. Is that correct? Masterperformerebook.com. And you can download an ebook that gives you a basic outline of the 5 stages of quickening of ultimate performance.
Okay, so I put that in there, masterperformerebook.com.
Or you can contact me through either website. There's a form where you can send an inquiry, and my dear wife and business partner, Mia, who's delightful, will make sure. Isn't she great? Everybody loves Mia.
Bless her heart. She was calling today going, what are we doing?
Yeah, she's the best. She's the best. I don't know what I'd do without her. But she will take care of you and make sure your requests, your interests. Anyway, and if you want to just talk to me about working together too, please contact me through that, and we'll just have an exploratory conversation.
Awesome. Well, Stephen, I want to thank you for being here today and taking time out of your busy day. I want to thank everybody from people in England to Colorado to California for taking time out of your day to join us on the Marketing Blab. let's see, next week I won't be here, so I won't be doing a blab, but on November 13th, I'll have Brian Carter, who's a Facebook social media humorist. He's awesome, and we will see you then. Again, Stephen can be found at scienceofswitchingon.com, stephenmemel.com. You can get his ebook at masterperformerebook.com. And thank you, Jilly. She's saying, I do the best blabs ever. I'll take the flattering comments. Connie says, thanks for setting it up. Sharon says, thank you. She almost jumped on today, but not today. And Uta says, of course, this was great. You do this well. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for your patience with the technological glitches. There will be a replay. The replay will be on Blab. It will also be on YouTube. And Stephen, I'm sending big hugs to you and Mia and Noah. And thanks so much for being here.
You're wonderful. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thanks again. Have a fabulous day and a great weekend. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Uta. Thanks, Robert, Merlin, Holly, everyone that's here. Thanks so much, and have a heartwarming day. Here's to your sweet success.